Brought to you by the EveryDollar app. Start budgeting for free today.
Well, my dad passed away a few years ago, and he left us a very sizable estate to my brother and I.
What is a sizable estate? How much money?
My brother and I probably ended up with $3 to $4 million each.
That's sizable. Okay, I'll agree with you on that.
and he taught me to be debt free at a young age. So I've built up my own my own retirement up to about $750,000 anyway. So it wasn't that I needed the inheritance, but
you were already a millionaire.
I was working on it. Yeah.
Well, you had other savings on top of the 750, so you were there. You had a house, probably.
I've had a very blessed life.
Yeah, good for you.
So the conundrum that I have is that he was married a second time. So I have step-siblings, and one of the steps had mentioned that I should share because he left it to my brother and I, and not the other steps.
Now, the steps are not his kids.
Correct.
They were his wife's from a previous marriage, and it was his second marriage,
Correct.
And so he became the stepdad. I'm just making sure I got the exact connection. So they have absolutely no blood connection to him whatsoever.
Correct, and they're adults.
How long were they married?
16 years.
Okay.
Oh, so they were adults. He didn't raise these kids.
No, he waited till he said that he didn't want to get married until everybody was out of the house. They dated for a considerable amount of time.
So they in no way even looked at him as a father figure.
Bye, Felicia.
Well, this step doesn't have a good relationship with her father, and she did kind of look at him for advice and so forth.
Yeah, well, that's nice.
And he was good to their kids too.
I bet he was
to the steps.
Okay, so she calls you up and says, "I want some money."
No, I'm having problem. My brother has passed away since then, and he was in the middle of a divorce, so I'm having problems with his wife that was divorcing my brother, and I mentioned that to her, and during that conversation, she got upset because of the numbers involved. And she started crying and saying, "I can't talk with you about this," and I just really... I just don't understand why we can't all just share. And
because we're not communists?
But what do you say to that?
Nothing.
Nothing. That's not your fault.
You don't say anything. Yeah.
You say, "You know what? I'm so sorry."
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Listen, I care about you, and I'll be here to emotionally be your step, whatever I am, and that kind of stuff. But I understand that this is hurtful to you, but gosh, I'm so sorry. And I just leave it at that.
Because it's not about you.
Feel bad about this?
No, you didn't do anything. What'd you do? Why would you feel bad? What'd you do?
Well, not that I did do something, but that that I'm in a better situation than she is, and it just she's making.
You didn't harm her in that process. Your father had money, and your father decided to leave his money to his two sons. That is a very normal act. Had he left some to the stepchildren, that would have been unusual.
Step adult kids.
Yeah. That were never in the house that he lived in.
He didn't adopt them, did he?
No, they were adults.
No,
Yeah.
No, their father's still alive.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, that's... This poor girl's just got emotional issues on her own. I can't talk to you. You got too much money that I thought I needed some of. I mean, come on. That's her.
Okay, well.
No, I don't feel guilty at all. And I'm not going to be mean about it. I'll be kind to her. And your dad loved her. He'd be gentle with her, and you were going to be gentle with her. But your dad didn't leave her any money. And he was closer to her than you are.
We're pretty close.
Your dad was closer to her than you are. He married her mother.
All right. Well, I appreciate the vote of confidence and that I was doing the right thing. And
so, were the assets of you and your brothers intermingled?
Some of them were. There were just a couple of things, but my brother and I got that worked out.
So how are you involved in the divorce then, and his death and so forth?
Because I'm his trustee.
Oh, geez, you're the executor of his will.
Well, she sidestepped that and got the forget what it's called when you're the she became in lack of terms the executor because the will hadn't been put in place. So she's kind of in charge of the estate, but I'm in charge of the trust because I was the trustee. So, yeah, that's a whole nother mess.
I bet Thanksgiving dinner's amazing at your house.
Yeah, no, not anymore. This chick's on the out. She was on the out before he died.
She
oh, my
was.
gosh.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, my
It's like,
goodness gracious.
I get to make the rules, but I've got the money.
But I get to make the rules. No.
But I get to make the
you
rules. Not
don't.
really.
You you were almost the ex-wife. You keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's what I figured
The reason
out.
we were going to put an X in front of your name, kiddo.
How the Fed uses the road money. Like, we're states. We can do what we want. That's cool. You want roads? Okay, we'll do what we'll do what you say. Oh, man.
So, hey, guys. Wow. Jared, you do whatever you want to do, honey. But here, bottom line is, it's back to the stepsister thing or whatever she is. If you were to give her some money, it's not going to make her okay. She was not okay before. She will be not okay after. Because this is not about the money and it's not about you. So you can't fix her with a check.
Right.
It's a waste of money.
And even, I mean, y'all call each other what you want to call each other. That's your family's business. I don't even know this qualifies as a stepsister.
It's not. I mean,
it's
well, I guess it is.
It's it's an adult child of someone your dad married, right? But that's a separate life. It's a separate world. And maybe y'all are close now, and that's wonderful and great and good. But I always like to think back on these situations as if my dad was here and I've got a decision to make, what would bring him joy, right, with this money he left me?
Well, and he already decided what he wanted to do with his money.
Right. He made that choice.
She was sitting there when he wrote the will.
Right.
I mean, she was on the planet at that point.
Yeah.
This is not like something that just, I didn't know.
Right.
You know, Dad already clearly said what he wanted to have happen.
Yes, behavior's a language. He was loud and clear.
Yeah. Yeah. And he didn't say he was mad at her.
Nope.
He just said she wasn't his.
And you don't know what she's already left them. Who knows if she paid for her college or her kids' college. You don't know any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. She just saw some huge numbers and says, I want some of that.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
So I ran out of time and we ran into the break on the dysfunctional stepsister, dad left money to his own boys discussion. And I was actually having a talk with one of our team members before the show. Christian in here and I were talking about a dysfunctional succession plan that's blown up in the public eye that he's aware of. And he was asking me, how do you avoid that? So let's go back to that particular thing and say, how do you avoid this? Okay. So there's two broken things in that call. One is the stepkids had no knowledge. And so once the daughter got knowledge of how much money, then her feelings were hurt. And her reaction was, I can't even talk right now. You need to give me some of this money, right?
Yeah.
The other broken thing was his brother, who had received $3 million. He and his brother had some of that intertwined. They were able to untangle that, so his brother was standalone. And then his brother starts going through a divorce, and instead of making sure he had a completed will, his will was incomplete, so now his soon-to-be ex-wife has stuck her nose into it and is screwing that up. Both of these are poorly handled estate planning, okay? So every one of you need a detailed will, but here's the important part that is left out of the first one of these things with the stepkids. Have a reading of the will or a discussion with the parties that think they might be involved. You can either do it in one room or a series of rooms. I don't care. Have the courage to tell people what it says while you're alive. So if Dad, who loved this girl's mom and was married to her for 16 years, had sat down with this girl and the others and said, hey, I care deeply about you guys, But when we got married, we decided that my money was going to go to my kids. And so I want you to know ahead of time, it has nothing to do with that, whether I like you or whether I care about you, but I'm leaving my money to my sons. And it's substantial, but that's none of your business.
Would that be his conversation or would that be their mother's conversation?
I think it's his.
Okay.
I think it's his. Because right now, who's she angry at? Him.
Yeah.
Because she felt connected to him, and this cut her.
Yeah. It makes me wonder if he gave her $50,000 and them $4 million, and that's the gap.
She didn't say.
But
I mean, he said he left everything to my brother and I.
That's true.
So, which I don't even know what happened to the mom.
Right.
Did she not, the second wife not get taken care of? I don't know. Yeah. We didn't get that in the story. But the bottom line is, tell people this is what's going on. And so I've got a friend whose kid is doing drugs, and he's in his 20s. And he sat down with everybody and he said, honey, I can't leave you money. Not because I'm punishing you, but because I'll be buying you drugs.
I'll kill you.
You'll use that. Your addiction will be ramped up and you'll have an overdose and die. And I love you, and I'm not going to fund something that brings harm to you. And so you're not going to get any money in the current version of the will. And it's not because I don't love you. It's because I do love you. Mm-hmm. And you're out of the will. And he knows that now. And your brother's the executor, and don't you say a word to him. Mm-hmm. So Dad threw his shoulders back, had a backbone, and had the discussion with a grown child drug addict while he's alive.
Yes.
So this is not a movie. This is life.
Yeah.
It's not like we have the paneled room with the trophy wife and the dysfunctional four children who come in and they are entitled and trust fund babies, and the reading of the will, and they're all shocked that the one kid who's somewhat normal gets it all. That's a movie. That doesn't happen in the real world, okay? Whatever you're doing in the real world, tell the people. That way they don't have to deal with the other people who are pissed off after you die because you were a coward and didn't tell people what was going on.
Yeah, your cowardice.
It's an act of cowardice.
Your cowardice will blow up the lives of the remaining
That's
family
exactly
members.
what this is.
Yeah.
If Dad had a 10-minute conversation with his grown stepkids and explained to them that he loves them, and he loved their mother, but this was my money before I came into this marriage, and so it's going to my children. You're not my children, even though I care about you. Then that would have probably handled this whole thing. Mm-hmm. And if brother had kept up with his own dadgum will and gotten it done and changed everything over. So you get divorced, change the beneficiary 3 weeks before on your 401k and your life insurance policies. Don't expect your ex-wife who hates your guts to take a $500,000 insurance proceeds and just give it to somebody because you forgot to change the beneficiary because you didn't do your job. So you've got to do these documents, people.
Yes.
It drives me nuts.
And here's the other side of it. I just yesterday sent my dad a text message. My dad's in his 70s, and I'm going to see him over Christmas. And I said, I want to go out to lunch with you, and I just want to listen. I want to hear what your picture is for the next 10 years. Where you and Mom want to live, because I think he's retiring in the next couple of years from his professor job. Where are you going to live? What do you want this to look like? And as a part of that conversation, my dad was a homicide guy. I've known where that will was since I was 6 years old, right?
Yeah.
But talking through what kind of support are y'all going to need? What kind of health challenges are y'all facing? But there are millions of senior adults that won't have that conversation you're having, but there's also millions of people my age, 30s, 40s, and 50s. If you don't know, don't just say, well, they wouldn't have the conversation. Then you need to go have the conversation. Somebody has to be an adult in this transaction, right?
Guys, 78% of Americans die without a will.
Which is insane to me.
That's stupid. It's asinine. If you're 18 years old, you need a will.
It's cruel, man.
I don't care if you own anything or not. You want the state to decide what happens to your children? Have you seen what some of these states are doing with children? You don't want these states in charge of nothing. They're morons. And so you need to be in charge of your kids. It's a will.
And there's zero correlation between making a will and a likelihood you die soon, right? That's not a thing. Talking about death
might be the opposite.
Doesn't encourage, probably.
The more we discuss my death, the better I feel.
You've gotten healthier.
We call it the Monty Python meeting, where we sit and talk about Dave. When Dave dies,
I'm not dead yet.
I'm really not dead yet. It's just a flesh wound.
I'm not dead yet.
I'm feeling better. Really? Just a flesh wound.
I've Dave, over the last year on my show, I think one of the most common questions I get is, how do I do X without somebody getting mad? How do I talk about Y without them blowing up you can't control that. So I think we all, as a country, we just got to have some hard conversations. And we got to do it at our kitchen tables.
You don't have to be mean about it.
No.
My buddy, he's not mad. He is upset. He's hurt that his kid's doing drugs.
But he'd probably pay for rehab, right?
He would help him any way he can, but he's not going to give him
a blank
money
check.
in order the same amount of money everybody else. He gives him zero.
Yeah.
So, because, and he said, when you clean up, I'll change the will if I'm still here. Mm-hmm. If you don't clean up before then, you're just out.
Yeah.
So, and it's a good incentive, but we're not trying to buy something with that. We're just trying to say, this is what's going on, so don't be hurt later.
Yeah.
Create your free every dollar budget today, the simplest way to budget for your life.